So the easiest way for me to give you guys the definition of square root would be to kind of just show you what it is. So we've talked about squares. So like 2 squared is 4. Therefore, the square root of 4 would be 2. And then 3 squared is 9. Therefore, the square root of 9 would be 3. Now these are just the perfect squares. Perfect squares are the ones that the square root turns out to be an integer. So it's a whole number. Okay, so you guys should automatically know the perfect squares 1 through 12 because those are the multiplication facts. And then you'll become familiar with the other ones, especially 1 through 25. You'll become familiar with. I mean, 20 squared is easy. That's 400. 15 squared is pretty easy. That's 225. 25 squared is pretty easy. That's 625. Okay, so this right here is impossible. You cannot have the square root of a negative number. Okay, you will talk about that, and it's like an imaginary number. You'll talk about it when you get to higher level math, but this is impossible. Now you can have this. If the negative is on the outside, your answer is just automatically going to be negative. Okay, now technically, sometimes the directions will ask you for both answers. And what that means is the square root of 100, or any of these, could be a positive number or a negative number. So because, what's 10 times 10? 100. And then what's negative 10 times negative 10? Awesome. Right. So either it could be, the square root of 100 could be positive 10, or it could be negative 10. But most of the time you just write what the number is. Okay, so, but we'll kind of talk about that. And then a radical expression, and we'll also do radical equations, and I'll show you how to do those too. It just involves a radical sign. So it involves something that you're going to have to use the square root for. Okay, and some of these you'll need your calculators for, and some of them you won't. And you'll be able to kind of tell which one's those. So the first couple of examples are perfect squares. In perfect squares, you don't need your calculator for. You'll be able to recognize them. So the first one is a community building is a playground with a square plot of land that has an area of 625 square yards, meaning that since it's a square, each of the sides is the same. So they want to know what is the length of one side. So all we have to do is, and this little box tells us length is always positive. So we would never write the negative answer of this because length is always length cannot be negative. So what I'm going to do to find the length is find the square root of 625. So I'm going to find the positive square root of 625. And again, this is one that I don't expect you to know right now, but you'll recognize it because the square root of 625 is 25. It's 25 times 25. So 25 squared equals 625, therefore the square root of 625 is 25. So, and these first couple down here, they're all perfect squares. So this is what this means. They want you to find the square root of 9. The square root of 9 is just 3. They want you to find the square root of 49, which is just 7. And you'll learn to recognize these. The square root of 169 is 13. And the square root of 196 is 14. Now, if you don't know that off the top of your head, you can use your calculator for it. Depending on what kind of calculator you have, Okay, so what would be the perfect square that comes before the square root of 28 and then it comes after the square root of 28? The one that comes before it would be the square root of 25. Okay? Because what's the square root of 25? 5. Okay? And the perfect square that comes after it would be the square root of 36. Why? Because that's 6. Okay? So I'm guessing if I was to type in the square root of 28 on my calculator, would my answer be closer to 5 or would it be closer to 6? Okay, now how do you tell that? Well, you look at this, 25 and 36. Is 28 closer to 25 or 36? 25. Therefore, if I was to type this in on my calculator, the answer I'd get would be closer to the number 5. And you would just circle that. 5. Yeah. So, and here's a couple more. This is to practice. Okay, so look at the square root of 46. We're going to think of the two perfect squares, one that comes before it and one that comes after it. So what perfect square comes before it? 36, right? Okay, the square root of 36. Which what is the square root of 36? 6. Now what comes after it? 49. The square root of 49, which is what? 7. Now, which one is closer? 36 or 49? 49. So my answer would be closer to 7. Now this one right here and number 8, you can automatically go ahead and draw your box with a negative sign because you know the answer is going to be negative, and then you can just ignore the negative sign. Okay? So we're thinking the square root of 125. What is the perfect square that comes before it and the perfect square that comes after it? Which 10 times 10 is 100. So just go ahead and check yourself. What about 11 times 11? 11 times 11 is 121. And that's really close to 125. Now, what would be the perfect square that comes after it? Which is what? Right, the square root of 144. Okay, so we know the square root of 121 is 11, and the square root of 144 is 12. So which one would it be closer to? 11. Why? Because 121 is closer to 125 than 144 is. So it would be negative 11. Okay, now 68.9. Don't let the decimal throw you. We're still thinking about what's the perfect square before it, what's the perfect square after it. Right, which is the square root of 64. And then the one after it would be 9, which what is 9 squared? 81. Okay, so I know the square root of 64 is 8, and I know the square root of 81 is 9. So 68.9 is closer to which one? 64. Right, so the answer would be 8. And again, go ahead and know off the bat that the answer to this one is going to be negative because of that. So don't let the decimal throw you. We're thinking, what's the perfect square before it? What's the perfect square after it? 81. So, yep, 81. And then what about after it? 100, which is 10. So which one is it closer to? 81. Yep. So my answer would be negative 9. Yeah. So, now, that's only when the directions say approximate the square root to the nearest integer. Now, if it tells you round to the nearest tenth or whatever, that means use your calculator. So, again, they're telling you what buttons to push here. Your calculator may be different. So you just got to figure out, do I push in the square root sign first, or do I push it in second? So I think with both of yours, you would do the square root sign first, and then type in the number. So when you do that, but for me, it's different. So for me, if I wanted to know 636 and the square root of that, I get 25.21904, but it tells me to round to the nearest 10. So all I would write would be 25.2. 25.2. 25.2. 25.2. 25.2. 25.2. 25.2. 25.2. 25.2. 25.2. 25.2. 25.2. 25.2. 25.2. 25.2. 25.2. 25.2. 25.2. 25.2. 25.2. 25.2. 25.2. 25.2. 25.2. 25.2. 25.2. 25.2. 25.2. 25.2. 25.2. 25.2. 25.2. 25.2. 25.2. 25.2. 25.2. 25.2. 25.2. 25.2. 25.2. 25.2. 25.2. 25.2. 25.2. 25.2. 25.2. 25.2. 25.2. 25.2. 25.2. 25.2. 25.2. 25.2. 25.2. 25.2. 25.2. 25.2. 25.2. 25.2. 25.2. 25.2. 25.2. 25.2. 25.2. 25.2. 25.2. 25.2. 25.2. 25.2. 25.2. 25.2. 25.2. 25.2. 25.2. 25.2. 25.2. 25.2. 36 minus 27. So now I'm going to evaluate again. I'm going to do the subtraction. So 5 times the square root of what's 36 minus 27? 9. So now I'm going to